Hello again, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depending on where you are, please give me a thumbs up or a hello in the chat so that we can make sure that this is streaming properly to everyone out there. And we have another exciting topic today, which really following on from many of the conversations that we've been having the last few weeks. It's an important one, but it's also a big one. So if you haven't really been following what's happening, there is a cookbook coming out. It's actually going to be 2 books. So very excited about that. And do stay tuned with us. Keep in touch so that you know when that book is released. We love your support in launching that. It's the Leadership Intelligence and Behavior Intelligence cookbooks. So we will talk a lot more about that in the coming weeks. But in the meantime, just again, give me a quick thumbs up. Tell us where you're from or something in the chat so that I can begin today. Thanks. Great, welcome. People coming on from all over the place. It's great. Glad to be here. Our topic today is really going one step further into the whole business and behavior intelligence. And it's not just small business. We're really talking, when we say business, it's any organization, whether small startup or large corporation. You have 2 parts to what you do. One is the operation, the business side of things, and the other is the people and the behavior. And when we talk about leadership, we're also talking about the coaching that leaders need to do. So it applies to coaches, it applies to leaders, it applies to pretty much everybody that's impacted. So although our focus tends to stay around leadership, this applies to many different areas. Let me see if I can get things working. Great. All right. So again, welcome. The challenge that we're going to talk about today is about leadership and getting away from just the execution and thinking also about the interaction between human beings doing the tasks that are related to any type of business situation, whether it's sales, operations, marketing, or management of any of those areas. So it applies to all those. When we talk about BIQ, we're really talking more than just behavior intelligence. We're actually bringing in the behavior and business interaction. So when I talk about business intelligence, I'm really talking about, the strategy, the metrics, the KPIs, the systems, the processes that get a business running. Okay, those are the things that operate the business. The behavior side of things is when you bring the people aspects into that. What are going to be the motivators that excite people, energize people, inspire them to do really well, to exceed expectations? As I've always said to many leaders, it's not enough to just have people that clock in, clock out, and just execute. You're looking for people to exceed your expectations. And that requires, that you motivate, inspire, support them, deal with the mindset individually, not just everybody in a bulk paintbrush approach, I call it. Okay. Why traditional approaches fall short? Um, Most leaders know what to do. That's one of the most frustrating things sometimes as a leader is we know what needs to be done, or if you're working with a coach to help you, you know what needs to be done as a result of the coaching or the mentoring that's taking place. But why doesn't it happen? Why aren't people doing what should be obvious for them to do? And that's because of the stuff that we can't see is what's going on in their head. We used to say when I was in IBM, when you're a tech, a computer engineer, a software engineer, your work produced results immediately. And so the satisfaction of completion was instantaneous. When you were then promoted to be a manager, it was different. Now you're dealing with people and it's invisible what's going on, whether you're actually influencing, whether you're getting any results. All of those things are no longer instantaneous feedback. If you don't get that feedback from your team, then it's invisible. And so often leaders will go to ignoring that element, and because it's easier to focus on the KPIs, the metrics, the business operation, again, because our brain prefers that instantaneous feedback, the satisfaction of completing something. Well, management and leadership, it's never finished. You're always dealing with something, with someone every single day, every day of the week, and it changes. So that's the problem that we deal with. So I've come up with my 3 A's, if you like, of how to deal with that. So it's easy to remember. You've got awareness, alignment, and action. Okay. So you start by identifying your patterns, identifying other people's patterns. That's the awareness stage. Okay. And we'll dive into how to best do that. Then we look at aligning those patterns with the role, the task, the responsibility, so that we can match all the thinking styles, the mindset, so that the action that takes place is effective action. And we talk about high impact action, meaning you identify the pattern, you focus on it, you actually work it, and you work it repeatedly through practice and repetition. Okay, bit redundant there. Behavior intelligence tools then are really important when you talk about that, because most of what we've had in the past are really good business-oriented tools. We've had some fairly vague tools on the behavior side of things, and we didn't have the opportunity to match those two up really well. And to do that, you can't just have a label that puts people in a particular category, in a box, because that really doesn't give you the specificity that you need to match behavior and individuals to the specific tasks that's required for a role. And that was the reason why we went into the meta programs. There's over 230 odd programs that were mapped over the last 4, 5, 6 decades. And those are the real insightful, specific tools that we can now use things like AccuMatch to then look at the individual tasks, the behaviors, the mapping of those programs. When you talk about programs, we're talking about brain, right? The neural pathways, the the network that takes place when we do something repeatedly enough times. We build those automatic unconscious programs that we call habits. Okay, and so those then need to be looked at from the communication styles. It's not just verbal communication or written communication, it's also body language, tonality. All of these things are part and parcel of the communications and the dynamics between people, so that you can actually map those and look at the relationship, the way people complement each other, or the way they might be different, and understanding the importance of the differences and how to apply the differences, so that we don't get into conflict, but we get into ways of understanding how everybody supports each other by having different opinions, different ideas, different approach. Those are really important, and a great leader can see that, but they never really have the tool to properly quantify it and take it out of being invisible to being a tangible tool that I can actually work with far more quickly. If you like, if I'm using intuition and guesswork, I might be right sometimes, wrong other times. There's a lot of getting to really know somebody over a long period of time before you can actually predict how they're going to respond in a situation. We used to call it the predictable behavior based on what they've done in the past. But if you have somebody brand new and you don't have that history, that's going to take a long time to do that. And that's why AccuMatch becomes the accelerator, because you get that insight very quickly with the right tool, because it maps those expected behavior patterns, so you can predict how somebody is going to behave in a role from the beginning. And as I've mentioned in other sessions, we've had coaches say, I've worked with a client for several years and I didn't realize just what were the trigger points and how they showed up in their role, because I'm not there every day. I don't see them at work. I only see them for the coaching session. And the map then gives an insight into the whole behavior pattern when you're not there. Okay. And even as a leader, that's important. You can't be, supervising every single person. And as we know today, we are working remotely very often, and that is bringing in another element to this. So when we talk about business, we're talking about these things that are there on the screen. We're talking about the processes, the KPIs, the tangible stuff, right? But when we're talking about people, we're really not touching a lot of that tangible stuff, but we are trying to match the two. And I'm just going to share some case studies here. These aren't all mine. These are, came from coaches around the world that have been doing this. And in that particular case, the client was stuck, not able to break through. It was a small business that was struggling to constantly almost reach the $1 million revenue, but never break through it. And so through understanding the patterns, changing the leadership and the dynamics, they were able to break through that fairly quickly within a very short period of time. So the light bulb moment of doing this with people, embracing people, and helping them understand, in that particular situation, it was helping the team understand that you're not just in operations or logistics. Everybody on the team has a function in sales and helping sales. Right? If a logistics person is talking to a client, that is an opportunity to impress that prospect, that client, or in order to get a referral, talk to them, have a conversation. So shifting the mindset of the leadership and the team was very quick. In another situation, this was, I believe, a coach out of Australia, where the leadership style needed to be adjusted again because it was misaligned with the group, and the group dynamics in one department was different to the other department. And through that process, and I think I probably shared that story a couple of times, they were able to improve the logistics, the delivery across both organizations, both team members fairly quickly. So that was a pretty powerful moment for them. Resistance. We've often talked about this, and also, the situation of the language, the framing the wrong language can build resistance. And, for a lot of leaders, it's very easy to come up with new ideas and, you're going to do something different today. But that can often result in a huge amount of resistance, because team members often will report, the CEO is a bull in a china shop. He's constantly coming up with new things, changing direction. We don't know what's going on from day to day. Well, the opportunity to frame that differently so that the team can actually embrace it and move forward with it is huge. And as in this case, it was an 80% adoption from, that high resistance that was achieved very quickly. 45 days is quick. We used to spend years doing some of these things and trying to achieve them without the right tools. And today, we're fortunate. We're in a different space where we're actually able to leverage tools that weren't there previously. So where do you start? Okay, well, you start with yourself. You can't just go around judging people and being effective with those judgments if you don't first learn how to use this for yourself. You can't easily identify traits in others without first seeing them in yourself. It's kind of like holding up a mirror, right? First, you need to do that. Then you need to map your team. Then, the big thing that I hear a lot, because Acumatch can give you 49 different points on several graphs, it's a lot of data. And I often say to people, actually ignore the volume and think of the specificity, because when you pick that one thing after the interpretation of the whole map with the person, there will be one thing that stands out. And it's because of having discussed all of those different points that really comes out as the number one thing to work on. So it's much easier to work on one thing when you have clarity and specificity. When you don't have clarity and specificity, it's vague. You don't get results. You don't know what to work on, right? So, I will often remind people that, to be successful in business is about being successful with the team. Okay, so with yourself, you're part of the running of the team. And so your mindset is also important. Even if you're a solo entrepreneur working by yourself, your mindset plays a big role in how you run your business. So taking time to understand yourself allows you to create new habits that evolve your business, evolve you and your business. If you like, if you are the ceiling of growth within your organization. I mean, ceiling, your mindset is really the catalyst that you reach that ceiling and you can't break through it because of your mindset, not because of the product or service. What you do is driven by your habits, your support, your beliefs, and so forth. Okay? So predicting and decoding yourself and others, how do you do that? It's not easy to do that if you don't have the tools to actually help you go through that. Okay, and the process itself, when you see it, it's amazing. It's so easy to do, and we've been avoiding it for so long because it was difficult without the right information, without the right tools. So we have experts from around the world because we run these sessions every week. We have, in addition to my weekly webinars, we have podcasts, we have panelists that come to our master classes that we run on a regular basis. Our community is constantly filled and growing with experts from different areas. And it's because, we've been doing this for a long time and we have different products to support people in different ways, from, business products to coaching products to behavior training, the Institute. There is a lot of resources that you will be able to tap into. And the BIQ network is a result of all of this coming together and going, you know what, we've kept these separate, but they really all work together. You can't keep them separated. They are all one thing that interacts into a holistic, if you like, methodology of running successful teams, businesses, etc. The value of the panels and the discussions are really the experts, the breakthroughs, the challenges that people share, and how others have overcome some of those challenges. So again, there'll be lots of opportunity to have those discussions with the right groups within that community. So, quick question for you. This is interactive now. Whilst I'm talking to you, have a think about this situation. What if this was real for you? I gave you some examples, but now I want you to think on your feet, right? Your opportunity to go, okay, I have a sales director that is avoiding accountability. And you're going, okay, what's going on? What's the real issue? Can you really identify that very easily without the right tools? So you're going to be guessing. Right? I can hear people doing that already. You are guessing, what's the issue? Why are they avoiding accountability? Is it a fear of being judged? Is it leave me alone, don't micromanage me? What is it? How do you know if you don't have the right tool? Okay. How would you approach that? So, but the first thing you need to do is map them so you can understand their motivation styles. Okay. What motivates them? What are the high points? What are their strengths? What are the things that they avoid, right? Is it a fear of conflict? A lot of people see accountability as, being judged, as opposed to an opportunity for development, for growth. Right? Do you need to reframe their KPIs to match the way that they think and the way that they operate? Um, you need to adapt your leadership style to each individual and their style. And how do you do that? Right? Without a tool, do they have to wear a thing across the head or a hat with a label so that when you talk to somebody, you understand or you have that insight in how to talk to them? Well, labels we know are not very useful because, at least in the English language and many languages, a label can mean many different things to many different situations, different contexts, and so forth. So the specificity, and you don't need to boil the ocean and do a million of those at the same time. You just need to know what is the right approach to talk to person A versus person B. You need to understand your tendency and your triggers, because if you don't manage them, you could be triggered into the wrong behavior with the wrong person. So you need to also have that awareness. It sounds completely, it's so much easier to work with business, right? And we'll just work with the KPIs. We don't need to really worry about the people side of things. That's their problem. I hire them. If they don't work out, we'll fire them, we'll replace them. But how long can you do that for? That is high stress, high burnout, all the overwhelm, all the things that are really getting in the way of growth, success, harmony in the workplace. We talk about it, it's a bit of a soft word, but it's a really important word when you have cooperation, collaboration, when 1 + 1 = 5 instead of 2, right? Or often, as we see, it's 1 - 1, where people are conflicting. You got one person that's motivating, another person that's demotivating, and it's just not working out because of lack of understanding. Okay, and that's all it is. It's a lack of understanding one another, and we can't read minds. We don't have ESP. We only have the observable behaviors, and we haven't had the tools to allow us to do that. And we will cover that. As I mentioned, the book, 400 different situations that you can look up like a thesaurus, and it will give you some guiding practices, principles that you can follow to be able to easily decipher and decode and act in those different situations. Okay, so I'm hoping to release that very shortly so that you can take advantage of that. Now I'll watch for questions as I wrap up here, and as usual, I'll say that we will be monitoring the questions online. So even if I don't get to answer them right immediately now, I will get to them shortly after that. Okay. So talking about coaches for a moment, because this has been very important, the Leadership Intelligence Certification, which leverages the behavior intelligence methodology, AccuMatch, is really important for being differentiated with some proprietary tools. There isn't really the tools and the methodology that we've generated, we've created, that has become a driver. We see a lot of coaches have stopped different types of things that they were doing and just focus on the leadership intelligence with AccuMatch and behavior methodology. So that's an important part of it. It's also impacting the second most important thing in business, in addition to attracting clients, keeping clients. And to keep clients longer, you need to get results. And so you need to have the right tools to provide tangible results. And how do you provide tangible results with mindset? It's very hard to do. So the tools that we provide actually expose the mindset changes, the behavioral changes, so that these become tangible, measurable results that people can then hang their hat on. They can understand the value of the service that they are getting from a coach. And then finally, to be part of a global community. When we work with some of the larger organizations that involve multiple coaches from different parts of the world, being part of a global community then becomes a critical way of handling that. So just getting to the end of this. So think about the BIQ network, Behavior Intelligence Network, or Business Intelligence Network. Depending on what you want to get out of it, really there are groups and sessions for different people. You can access the assessment, the behavior intelligence, AccuMatch. You can book a discovery session if you need to get familiar with that, and also join the network. A quick testimonial, the tools, the language is really important, and the support to get the results that you're looking for in your life, in your business. Okay, so thank you. Again, a fairly brief session. I hope you found it valuable, and I look forward to seeing you online. Do keep an eye out for the book, and support us in getting that into the hands of as many leaders as possible, so that we can get this movement of leadership intelligence through behavior happening around the world. Again, thank you, and see you online, and take care.